When my biological parents found me, I was getting bullied by the golden boy. He said, "Rats like you should stay in the sewer." So the first thing I did after being welcomed back was shove his arrogant face into the stinky trash. It's him who should have grown up in the gutter. Then, someone called my name. I turned around instinctively and got kicked hard to the ground. My worn-out school uniform got soaked in dirty water, now completely ruined. A tall guy crouched down in front of me, grinning, but his eyes radiated malice. "Told you to wait for me, didn't I? Why'd you leave on your own?" Knowing I'd get beaten up, of course I didn't wait. As I struggled to get up, I was stomped back into the puddle, splashing water everywhere. His branded sneakers pressed hard on my chest, and he finally dropped the fake smile, staring down at me like I was trash. Rats should stay in the sewer. Stop dreaming about getting some sun. This guy, the one admired by lots of girls and seen as a model student by the teachers, was none other than Eric. I knew better than anyone else how rotten he really was under that fake nice guy mask. Eric picked up a dented water bottle from the corner and held it in front of me. "Drink it." The bottle had about 2 fingers of murky, yellowish liquid mixed with dirt at the bottom. I couldn't tell if it was rainwater or what. "Drink it and I'll let you off today." I clenched my teeth, fighting the urge to shove the bottle into his mouth. It's not that I couldn't fight him, but I couldn't go up against the powerful family. Any resistance meant endless trouble, and they had plenty of ways to make me drop out. Seeming impatient, Eric grabbed my face and shoved the bottle into my mouth. I choked and coughed, the stench spreading through my nose and mouth. Seeing me drink it, Eric looked satisfied. "See you tomorrow." He left. I stuck my finger down my throat, retching on the ground, trying to puke up the dirty water. Footsteps approached from the alley entrance, and I frowned, thinking Eric might have come back. But I saw instead a stranger. The man adjusted his glasses and said respectfully, "Young master." Nervous, I cursed in my mind, not wanting anyone to see me like this. I got up, ignoring the pain. The man stopped me and dropped a bombshell in a calm voice. "Ken and Wendy aren't your biological parents. 17 years ago, the nanny Wendy swapped you with her son. You're the real heir of the Gu family." I paused, unable to believe what I was hearing. A drunk dad, a dead mom, barely having enough to eat. Eric was right. I was a rat from the sewers. But then someone tells me I should have been born with a silver spoon in my mouth. At that moment, all I could think, buzzing in my head, was, does this mean I won't have to worry about tuition anymore? With what little belongings I had, I got into the man's car without even telling Ken. The guy spent 20 out of 24 hours too drunk to care if I lived or died. The car zoomed out of the rundown part of town and finally reached the rich folks area. The man led me into a massive house, where I saw an unexpected person. Seeing me, Eric's expression twisted for a split second before he recovered with his usual gentle demeanor. I couldn't play pretend like him, so my eyes widened slightly. "My child, you're finally home." A woman dressed in luxury hugged me, tears streaming down. Father Mike patted my shoulder, red-eyed. Breathing in the rich fragrance of the house, I blinked in disbelief. So, they were my real parents and I'd never have to worry about tuition again. Eric stepped forward, softly saying, "Dad, Mom, little bro just got back. Let him rest first." Had I not experienced his bullying, I might have fallen for his act. Mother Sunny let go, smiling sheepishly. "Right, Ben, you must be tired. Go rest. I'll call you for dinner." Eric offered to show me to my room. I knew he wanted to get rid of the others temporarily, so I followed him silently, curious about his intentions. As soon as the door closed softly behind us, Eric threw a glass of cold water in my face. "You think you're fit to be my brother?" He sneered, pointing at me. I grabbed some tissues, calmly drying my face. Eric must have thought I wouldn't fight back, enjoying my pathetic state. But he guessed wrong. I was no longer the rat he could toy with. I punched him hard in the face, the impact making a dull thud. Unprepared, Eric stumbled back, almost falling. Clutching his face, he glared at me in disbelief, unable to fathom I dared retaliate. Eric threatened, "Ben, you must have a death wish. Do you think I won't make you?" I smirked. The coward couldn't even threaten loudly, afraid of blowing his cover. Realizing this, Eric shut his mouth, glaring daggers at me. He knew it too, I was the real Heir. As a fake, he had no power to make me drop out. With Mike and Sonny downstairs, Eric couldn't make a scene. After taking my punch, he scurried off. The next morning, Eric and I left for school together. Like a true big brother, he patiently waited downstairs until I joined him in the car. I marveled at his acting skills, as if last night's altercation was just a dream. Word of us attending school together spread like wildfire. Thanks to Eric, the school's star, every move he made grabbed attention. No matter where I go, whispers follow me, talking about who I am behind my back. Eric, why's Ben hanging out with you lately? Is he your cousin? Yeah. How did you two suddenly become so close? Eric was surrounded by a group of guys. They're his crew, always trailing behind him. Eric seemed annoyed by the questions, shook his head and said, "Nah, we're not close and he's not family. His dad's just our new driver, that's all." Hearing that, I couldn't help but chuckle. Eric finally noticed me in the classroom, and there was a flicker of embarrassment in his eyes. Looks like he's not just a good actor, but a pretty convincing liar too. A driver? Ha, that's a good one. Hearing Eric's explanation, his group exchanged disdainful looks. Man, what kind of driver has no professional ethics to let his son go to school with the boss's kid? Totally. I thought they were family. They're just parasites. Among the chatter, one of the guys suddenly remembered something, shushing everyone. Lowering his voice with an excited expression, he said, "I heard Ben's family's a mess. His dad's always drinking and his mom's gone." Enough, Eric cut in. "Class is starting soon. Go back to your seats." The smile faded from Eric's face, and his crew dispersed without a hitch. I was suddenly curious, though. What if they knew Eric is the actual driver's son? What would their reaction be? In September, even near dusk, the sunlight outside was still scorching. After running laps, the gym teacher gave us free time. The girls huddled under the shade to chat, while the guys started an impromptu game. I usually steer clear, but today, for the first time, someone invited me to join. Seeing his mischievous look, I got the hint. This was a setup. Not wanting trouble, I turned him down. But the guy kept pushing. "What's wrong? Can't play ball? Or are you just scared?" His blatant disdain annoyed me. But with the protection of the Gu family, I felt more confident and headed to the court. There, I noticed more than one of Eric's lackeys. Almost the whole gang was there, Eric included. This game was clearly his response to the punch I threw before. Sure enough, I was targeted. At first, they pretended to play normally, then deliberately started aiming the ball at me. "Oops, sorry. Slipped." Their hollow apologies filled my ears. Soon my clothes were dusty, but I bore it, telling myself it wasn't the right time yet. Maybe they didn't expect I'd hold my ground, so they upped their game. A ball came hurling from behind, brushing past my ear. I stood my ground but winced at the sharp pain that struck my shoulder. The driver's kid thinks he can hang with Eric? Such a joke. The guy who invited me sneered, lifting his nose at me. He was Eric's top henchman. My shoulder throbbed dully. It was time to teach him a lesson. I took a step forward, ready to send him to the hospital. But before I could, a familiar voice called out. "Ben, you okay?" Eric's voice. But I didn't get far before a small figure stepped in front of me. "Really? All of you against one guy?" She was a stranger to us but managed to break up the posse. Disgruntled, they left the court, muttering about her uselessness. Passing by, I glimpsed Eric's face. He seemed annoyed, his gaze lingering on the girl's hand touching mine. A sudden realization hit me. Eric's bullying, it was because of her. The girl turned to me, eyes filled with concern. "Ben, you okay? Let me help you to the nurse's office." It was her again, Lily. I've lost count of the times she's shown me kindness. Before, I found it a bit troubling. Now I knew. She was the reason behind it all, whether she meant to or not. Eric liked her, and that's why he hated me. In conversations about our prettiest classmate, she always topped the list. I studied her for a moment. She truly was beautiful. "Come on, let's go to the nurse." I dodged her hand. Thanks, but I'll pass. Then I walked away. She might be stunning, but her head's a mess if she thinks she's some kind of savior. Must have read too many novels. Since moving back home, my life flipped upside down. My sleeping spot went from a makeshift bed to a spacious luxury suite. No more drunken father to face. I had new parents who were well off and cared for me deeply. Aside from Eric, who was about as real as a plastic bag, everything was great. Time flew by, and it's been over 2 weeks since I moved here. I no longer had to spend my breaks doing odd jobs and could focus on studying. My grades went up and I ranked 3rd in my class. Back at the court, I didn't get to fight back because Lily jumped in. I thought Eric would keep hassling me, so I'd been on guard. Surprisingly, nothing happened. Though they still mostly ignored me, at least they weren't bugging me. I just wanted to quietly get through high school. But I never thought Eric would stoop to such low tricks. The sharp sound of a breaking cup echoed, as a chubby ceramic mug shattered on the floor in pieces. Wide-eyed, I watched, stunned, and then looked at Eric. 5 minutes ago, he knocked on my door, holding a pink mug. Once inside, he started explaining its backstory. "This is from my 12th birthday," he said. "Our family made it together." I looked at him, totally speechless, not understanding what he was trying to do. Out of nowhere, Eric let go, and the perfectly good cup shattered. I frowned instinctively. "Have you lost your mind?" Sensing something off, I stood up from my desk, wanting to leave the room. But just as I got up, the room door opened. Sunny stood there with a tray of fruit. She immediately saw the broken ceramic pieces on the floor and frowned slightly. "What happened here?" Eric lowered his head, looking guilty. "Mom, it's my fault. I shouldn't have brought up old memories with my brother and upset him. I'm sure he didn't mean it." I stared at Eric in disbelief, too stunned to speak. How could he say that with a straight face? He let it go himself, and the cup broke because of him. Now he's making it my fault. Anger started to burn within me as I tried to explain to Sunny. "He dropped the cup. It wasn't my fault at all. When I was 5, I became a kid without a mom. Ken was always drinking and gambling. He only cared enough to keep me from starving. The kids around me bullied me because they knew no one would stand up for me. Neighbors hated Ken, so by association, they hated me too. They'd blame me for lost things, for kids misbehaving. Heck, they even blamed me for water pipes freezing in winter. They said I was bad luck, causing the bitter cold that winter. Young me argued over and over, but no matter what I said, blame always landed on me. Eventually, I learned to ignore it. Let them talk. As long as their fists didn't land on me, they couldn't really hurt me. But right now, the person in front of me was my own mother. I couldn't ignore it. I was scared she'd hate me. I looked at her, hopeful, but I clearly saw distrust in her eyes and disappointment. "Ben, Eric's been with us for 17 years. He's your brother. Don't hold it against him for the past. It wasn't his fault." A pang of sadness hit my heart, and my eyes started to heat up. I spoke again, unwilling to give up. "It wasn't me. Really, it wasn't me who broke it. Sunny sighed lightly, "If you like. Next time I have the time, I could take you to make one too." So to her, her real son wasn't as important as the stranger she raised. The bit of grievance in my heart died down. I shook my head, "No thanks. Please leave, I need to do my homework." Sunny left after setting down the fruit, leaving just me and Eric in the room. He started eating the fruit, smiled, and said, "You better behave from now on, little brother." Looking at his smug face, I clenched my fist. One day I'll expose his true colors myself. I didn't eat a single piece of that fruit. Instead, I dumped it all in the trash and told the housekeeper not to come into my room for a while. Since his successful framing last time, Eric had become more and more fake in his words and actions. When people were around, he acted all kind and gentle to me. But when no one was watching, he showed his true colors and mocked me. I didn't talk back. Instead, I put my hand in my pocket and silently turned on my voice recorder. "Go ahead, insult me. The worse, the better." At the same time, I prepared a little gift for Eric, just waiting for the right moment to surprise him. A few days later, in the evening, I was doing homework in my room. Just as I expected, Eric showed up again. For a week now, every evening, He'd come to my room just to insult or warn me. Today was no different. He grabbed the water bottle from my desk and said mockingly, "Fate sure is funny. A month ago, you were drinking filthy water off the ground. Now you're drinking expensive bottled water. Lucky rat." I chuckled and played along. "You're right. Back then, at least you were a real young master. But now?" I looked him up and down, pitying him. "You've turned into a fake." "You." Eric lost it and grabbed my collar, seething through his teeth. "Who are you calling fake?" "You." He raised his fist to punch me, but I grabbed his wrist, stopping him. Stretching out my other hand, I grabbed his hair tightly and dragged him into the bathroom. I lifted the lid of a red bucket in the bathroom, unleashing a stinking odor. I shoved Eric's head into the bucket of slop. Eric yelled and struggled hard. The slop splashed out of the bucket. Seeing his head and face covered in fermented leftovers was incredibly satisfying, and I couldn't help but laugh. "Do you like it? I prepared this surprise just for you, Ben." Eric was furious, almost losing his mind, trying to hit me. I dodged in advance, and Eric slipped on a rotten apple by his foot, falling flat on his face. At that moment, several people rushed into the room, attracted by our commotion. Mike and Sonny were among them. Seeing the chaos in the room, they were stunned. Sonny looked shocked. "What's going on here?" Seeing others, Eric stopped his shouting and pitifully called out, "Mom." Mike asked coldly, "What happened?" "Dad, I just came to check on Ben," and out of nowhere he shoved me into the slop bucket. Mike glanced at the red bucket in the bathroom, wearing an unhappy expression. The housekeepers looked horrified, clearly not expecting I'd be so ruthless. "Mom." Eric's voice had a sobbing tone, even squeezing out a few crocodile tears. Sonny was visibly upset for the first time in front of me, wearing a serious look. "Ben, tell me, why would you do this to your brother? I already let the broken cup go, but now you've gone too far." I shrugged and smirked, pulling a voice recorder from my pocket and hitting play. "See? Everyone's on my side. Better behave, dirty rat." Eric's voice filled the room, each word a threat, each sentence a crude insult, the elegant facade nowhere to be found. Eric was the first to react. He lunged at me like a madman, trying to snatch the recorder, hitting pause. Silence reigned, and Eric stood there pale, fists clenched tight. This time he really cried. The guy everyone thought was perfect had his facade torn, revealing a nasty soul underneath. He's probably falling apart right now, but I'm feeling pretty great. It's like the 2 years of bullying has finally lifted a bit. Mike sighed, looking exhausted. "Eric, go clean yourself up first." Everyone left silently, leaving the room quiet. It's funny, isn't it? I didn't even get an apology or any comfort. I began to question why they even brought me back. Was it to make up for 17 years of missing parental love? Or was it just to keep their kid from being out there on his own? I can't figure it out. But one thing I know, to them, I'll never compare to Eric, even if he's this kind of person. The last bit of hope I had just vanished. The next morning, the school was buzzing, all because of 2 paternity tests. These tests revealed the mysteries of our backgrounds, mine and Eric's. It got people talking, guessing left and right. Eric went nuts, but he couldn't do anything about me. That time he got dunked in the slop bucket made him realize I'm not someone to mess with anymore. As the situation escalated, the rumors got wilder. The school had to step in. The school informed the parents. Mike and Sonny claimed they were too busy, dodging any meetings with the school. As for Ken, he vanished like he was never here. Ever since I moved back, we haven't kept in touch. I guess he took the parents' money and promised never to reach out to me again. In the end, they made me read an apology in front of the whole school. When I got on stage, I crumpled up my apology and told everyone the truth about me and Eric. The crowd went nuts. Eric, pale as a ghost, bolted out of there. Causing all this drama, my biological parents' warmth toward me cooled down fast. Especially Sonny. She stopped smiling at me altogether. But they didn't skimp out material-wise. Food, clothes, everything was on par with Eric's. After this, Eric and I were officially done. We avoided each other, living under the same roof but never crossing paths. Without having to see his fake brotherly love every day, I felt a whole lot better. During this time, Eric kind of fell apart, hiding away in his room all day. Mike and Sonny were constantly worried, sighing a lot, but never concerned about how I felt. A few days later, Eric transferred schools. He couldn't take the classmates' gossip and asked to move schools. Sonny, of course, agreed. I became sort of famous, and Eric's followers didn't dare mess with me anymore. They all apologized nervously, but I ignored them. If apologies worked, we wouldn't need the police, right? This whole drama ended. In no time, I was facing the tough senior year of high school. My college entrance grades were decent, and I enrolled in a uni up north. It was a personal choice. After 2 years, I slowly realized I didn't belong in this family. At the new school, Eric became the star again, still the pride of Mike and Sonny. In my sophomore year, Mike made some bad decisions, and the company lost a lot of money. I didn't really get the details. Eric knew more, since he's being groomed as the heir. My plan was to graduate and work overseas. But as they say, plans never keep up with changes. On New Year's Eve, Mike called me into the study alone. He said the family needed a marriage alliance. I was stunned for a moment. I was just a college sophomore, not even old enough to legally marry. How was I supposed to get hitched? Mike coughed a few times and finally explained. The company's been losing for a few years, and funds are tight. The only way to keep projects going is through a marriage alliance. I translated his words in my mind. No money, so sell a son for cash. It's obvious why they picked me over Eric. It's not a good marriage deal. So I immediately refused. I'm not agreeing to this. You think you have a choice? Just then, the door to the study slammed open. Sonny stormed in with Eric by her side. Sonny, clearly upset, said, Eric's meant to inherit the family. He can't marry into another. You're the perfect candidate. Her words made my heart skip a beat. Marrying into another family? Seriously? Mike sighed, furrowed his brow, and scolded. Didn't I tell you I'll handle this? Why are you here? If I didn't come, our family would collapse. Sonny took a deep breath, clearly holding back her emotions, trying to appeal to me emotionally. Ben, we've treated you well over the years. Now that the family's in trouble, shouldn't you help us out? Would you really watch us fall apart? Please help for your mother. Her lips moved sweetly, but her words made me feel like I was in winter. I bit down, holding back tears, saying each word carefully. Did you forget? I am your biological son. Just because Eric doesn't want to, doesn't mean I have to. Sonny was stunned, speechless for a moment. Then Eric dropped the act. He comforted Sonny before turning to me. Ben, everything you eat and drink comes from the family. Like it or not, this marriage must happen. Mike and Sonny stayed silent, obviously agreeing with Eric. I found it laughable. I'm their real blood, but I'm the one sacrificing my happiness for Eric. A comfortable life. Isn't that what I deserve? Annoyed but amused, I nodded. Fine. I'll do it. I was set up to meet the heiress for this alliance. Before meeting her, I prepared myself to face someone who might be unattractive or have a difficult personality. I didn't mind either, but I was surprised. I knew this heiress. Lily, why is it you? When Lily saw me, she looked just as shocked. I thought the person coming would be Eric. Underneath the table across from her, I gave a nonchalant smile. What's this? Disappointed it's me? Lily didn't pick up on the topic. She just held her water glass and gave a small smile. After a few years, she's even more beautiful. No wonder people called her the class belle. Then her smile became a bit forced. A few years back, I had an accident. I stopped smiling and looked at her carefully. Only then did I notice she had a prosthetic on her left leg. My heart sank with regret, maybe even a bit of bitterness. Without thinking, I spilled my thoughts. Lily looked stunned. Are you sure you want to do this? I nodded. I've changed my mind. I'll find a way to call off this engagement. I can't ruin your life. I stood up to leave, but I heard her voice behind me. Wait. I turned back to her, waiting for her to speak. She seemed a bit embarrassed. Will you marry me? I can do my best to go along. I wasn't too keen on it, but I couldn't let someone sacrifice their happiness for my plan. Lily blushed slightly and shook her head. If it's not you, it'll be Eric or someone else. But if I have to choose, I'd rather it be you. At that moment, something moved my heart. I softly replied, okay. So, the initial agreement for a union between our families was made. Mike's company got a little breathing room, and Sunny was overjoyed, showering me with care. If I hadn't agreed, she'd probably hate me for life, right? Seeing the Look family happy about the marriage, I couldn't wait to see their reaction at the wedding. It'd definitely be epic. The wedding was set for early March. Lily and I agreed we wanted the ceremony first before getting the papers. Though the family had seen better days, the connections they made over the years still held strong. The news about me joining the family got leaked, not sure who did it. Soon, many were calling me a freeloader behind my back. Lily was even angrier than I was and scolded Eric in private, convinced he was the one who spread the word to embarrass me. Wedding preparations were handled mostly by our parents. After some hustle and bustle, March arrived. Lots of guests turned up that day. Lily's company had grown rapidly these past years, and many were eager to ingratiate. Mike mingled, holding his drink. His company had been declining for years, and he had long since lost his pride. Even when people made snide remarks, Mike just smiled, pretending not to understand. Deep down, he knew many thought the marriage was a joke. Selling one's own child for gain, what a disgrace. Then came the vow exchange. Groom, do you vow to abide by your wedding vows, to love her, comfort her, honor her, and protect her, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, in beauty or in loss, through good times and bad, for all the days of your life? Facing the priest's usual questions, I smiled and said, I do not. Instantly, the place went silent. I repeated firmly, I do not. Whispers filled the air as people talked amongst themselves, and our parents' faces turned dark. Mike and Sunny looked frantic. Ignoring everyone's reactions, I left the ceremony straight away. Running away from the wedding was my plan from the start. I wasn't a saint, and I couldn't sacrifice my happiness for them. I headed straight to the airport, and along the way, I received a message from Lily. Goodbye, Ben. I stared at those 3 words for a long time, mentally saying goodbye too, before boarding a flight to another country. Southeast Asia, where the summer heat is fiery. I've been living here for half a year now with a decent job. I'm considering settling down here. After leaving, I closed all my social media accounts, changed my number, and cut ties with Mike. Honestly, I don't even know what happened to Mike afterward or if my revenge was successful. One night, at a bar I frequent, I saw a familiar face. Long time no see. Lily was wearing a floral dress with a red hibiscus behind her ear, looking stunning. She told me Mike's company had completely gone under. Lily's parents faced public humiliation and stopped supporting Mike's family financially. Mike and Eric went to apologize in person but got turned away. Soon enough, Mike's company declared bankruptcy, loaded with debt. Eric couldn't handle the reality of being poor, locked himself in, and became almost useless. After hearing it all, I didn't feel the joy I expected. Instead, I felt sorry for her. I turned my head. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. On our would-be wedding day, I bailed, leaving her to face endless gossip and rumor. Lily chuckled, looking unaffected. It's all right. I ran away from home. What else was I supposed to do when Dad tried to force me into marriage? I sighed, feeling guilty still. Lily winked at me, smiling playfully. If you feel bad, be my personal tour guide. Okay? There's no fun exploring alone. Sure. We exchanged smiles, and the noise around us faded away, leaving us lost in each other's gaze.